The thing with narcissists, which anybody who's dealt with one
Yeah.
knows, they're charming and funny and they'll drop
Yeah.
anything at 2 a.m. to go help somebody. Nobody really, people probably thought, oh, he's just spouting about, maybe they're
Yeah.
having a little fight or
Right.
whatever. But I was the dutiful, silent wife for 25 years that nobody had any idea.
Welcome to the That's Where I'm At podcast. I'm Laura, happily divorced after spending years with a narcissist. I believe keeping secrets will make you sick and that they always come to light in the end. As women, we're often told to be quiet, don't share your story, don't talk about the things we go through. It's making women sick, sad, and suicidal. We don't have to be on the other side to share our story. This show is for the women still in the middle of the mess, but showing up bravely as they heal. It's time to share these stories with each other so we can learn, grow, and heal together. I'm Laura, and that's where I'm at. Please take note that this episode may contain subjects that may be triggering to certain listeners. Please take care when listening today. Hi, guys. Welcome back. I spoke with Dana Diaz today, and she is amazing. I'm going to tell you a little bit about her, and then I'm going to tell you what we talked about. She's a best-selling, award-winning author and global speaker and a podcaster. Her memoir trilogy, Gasping for Air, Choking on Shame, and Rising from the Ashes, was inspired by her lifelong experience with abuse and domestic violence and the healing journey she was led on as a result. She experienced abuse all of her life, and what she has become is amazing. She's so amazing. She's so beautiful. She just loves and wants to inform everyone about domestic violence and self-love, and that you can move forward and have hope. So I want you to really listen. If you are coming into this without any hope, you are not going to leave without hope today. She's an amazing person. She has such emotional intelligence about everything that happened to her. And our stories are so similar. And aren't they? In narcissistic abuse, so many of us experience such similar things because they have such a pattern. So I hope that you will enjoy this episode today and that you will feel really good at the end of this. I know you will. She was a delight to listen to. So she was a delight to talk to. So here's the episode. Hi, guys, and welcome back to the That's Where I'm At podcast. Today I have Dana. Dana, I'm so glad you're here. Welcome. Yay.
Yay. Thank you for having me. I'm very excited. We've planned this for a long time, so I'm glad
Yes.
to be here finally.
I know it's been a long time. I love it. I have so many people I'm going to be talking to that are so helpful. Sadly, there's so many of us doing this line of work. And so I'm excited to talk to you today. So first thing I want to know is, how did you get started in doing what you're doing? So of course, I would have given an intro by now, but tell us a little bit about what you do and how you got into that line of work.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the beginning of the story is actually, it goes back to before I was even born. But
Wow.
the why I do what I do is not just because of the life I've lived, but I actually attribute it to my very first book, which was developed from a journal I kept hidden under the couch cushion in the basement during COVID, during that shelter in place, which I was at the point where I'd already had a conversation with an attorney about divorcing my then husband, who I'd been with for almost 25 years.
Wow.
A narcissist, an abusive one, one that liked alcohol as well. And it got bad. I mean, trigger warning here for anybody who's listening. But at that point in early 2020, he was actually telling people he was planning to kill me.
Oh my gosh.
And
did anybody reach out to you and like, Dana, are you okay or anything?
no,
or they just didn't really believe him?
I think the thing with narcissists, which anybody who's dealt with one knows, they're charming and funny and they'll drop anything at 2 a.m. to go help somebody. Nobody really, people probably thought, oh, he's just spouting about, maybe they're having a little fight or whatever. But I was the dutiful, silent wife for 25 years that nobody had any idea. People, I had actually been accused of having resting bitch face. Like people just assumed I was just an unhappy person,
Yeah.
which is
Well,
not the case. I was suffering, but I was terrified of exposing the truth. But the
oh yeah, for
problem
sure.
was because nobody knew what was going on behind closed doors. Nobody, because I was isolated. I was
Yep.
moved 90 miles away from friends and
Uh,
family, even those that were close by. He didn't like me talking on the phone. I couldn't use
no.
the computer. I didn't even have a smartphone. I still had the little slider that I just could text and make phone calls. And
Wow.
God forbid if it buzzed, then I was screwing somebody or
Yes.
conspiring. It was just
All
ridiculous.
that. Yeah.
So 2020, I talked to an attorney. 2 weeks later, we're under a shelter in place. I can't file for divorce. The courts are closed, and I'm locked in a house with a man who wants me dead.
Well, my marriage fell apart in 2020 as well because we were in close quarters with our abuser.
Hmm.
And I always said, it's like some marriages made it out of the pandemic and some of them didn't. And you know that domestic violence went up during
Yes,
that
it
time
did.
because you were
Yes, it
stuck
did.
in the house with your abuser and couldn't like even have moments of escape or whatever maybe. And also, it was that time where mine was an essential worker, so he would leave the house,
Oh,
occasionally. So but when we were all struggling, right, we were struggling with like finances and all those things, and the anxiety was so heightened. And yeah, it was scary to think about, but
yeah.
at that I didn't know at that time that I was being abused. I really didn't understand that because I didn't understand until after that it was narcissistic abuse. But I just knew I didn't I didn't like
Well,
being stuck
yeah.
with him.
And obviously in my
Yeah.
case, I was at the point where I literally, when that shelter in place took
Yeah.
effect, I literally took my turtle, my computer, my
Yeah.
everything went to the basement. And he didn't work anyway. He hadn't worked for 4.5 years because
Okay.
he was entitled to my income and everything I
Of
had, which
course. Yeah.
was a whole other thing. But yeah, I was honestly scared that something was going to happen to me because there
Right.
were strange things happening in the house. Of course, they looked like accidents, the things
Okay.
that were happening, but I was scared. I was truly scared that something was going to happen. It would be passed off as an accident because, again, during COVID,
Yeah.
hospitals were closed. There was nobody that, even the essential workers, everything was very limited. And I thought
Right.
something's going to happen. It's going to look like an accident and it's just going to be passed off as, oh, what a terrible tragedy. Life goes on. And I wanted to make sure the
Yeah.
bastard got justice.
Yes,
So,
exactly.
yeah,
So I want to talk about a few things that you said because I want people to hear
please.
them so that they understand. Like you
Yes.
had a flip phone and you were isolated. Those are
Yeah.
red flags because that you're not allowed to have the same things that maybe he had a smartphone. You're not
Oh,
allowed to
yes.
have any kind of, you can't call out. So these little things, like one thing on its own doesn't always look abusive, but all these things together, I don't remember what the other thing was that you said, but the isolation that he didn't work, this is not a surprise.
Oh, that's entitlement. They're all entitled. No,
Yeah.
not a surprise at all. He had actually lost his job kind of
Right.
on purpose. He kind of, if that makes any sense, he
Yeah.
made sure he lost his job
Yeah.
so that he could lay on the couch, which was all he did. And
Yeah.
it was my job, even though I had a lung syndrome by that point
Uh,
and COVID was happening. And my doctors were telling me back then a common cold could kill me. His
right.
answer to that, when I pleaded with him and said, please, 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 can you go? Everybody's paying $25, $35 an hour. Walmart, Menards, get something.
Yeah.
He said, nope, you better get to it, mama. That's what he
Yeah.
said to me. And I just thought, well, I'm going to get to packing my bags is what I'm going to
Right.
do. But I couldn't do that at the time. So it's
And
hard
were
to be
you guys,
stuck in
was
a
it 25
situation.
years by that point? 25 years by
It was
2020?
just on, I mean, we
Right.
2020 October would have been 25 years that we
Yeah.
were
So,
together. So
okay. So sometimes when we're saying these things, people are like, well, why would you just stay around and just let him talk to you like that and just be, a slug on the couch?
mhm.
Okay. Well, by 25 years, actually doesn't even have to be that long. The
Right.
trauma bond is
Yes.
it happens so fast where you are so chemically bonded, the good and the bad. Even though it's
Hmm.
a lot of bad, you're living off of that hope and breadcrumbs. I always say that's how I lived, off of hope and breadcrumbs, just
That's
a little
exactly
bit.
it.
Yeah.
And for me, I can honestly say, believe me, I get a lot of heck from people that say,
Yeah.
oh, it couldn't have been that bad if it was 25 years. Well,
Right.
It actually was.
Yeah,
But I was already trauma bonded. I'm going to say 3 months into the
I
relationship
bet.
back
Yeah.
in 1995,
Hmm.
1996. It didn't take long because for me, when I said that this all started for me before I was born, just to give a little
Yeah.
background
Yeah.
on this, my I was a teenage pregnancy. I was an oopsie daisy.
Okay.
But my mother didn't want children at all. So to be pregnant as a teenager and carry that shame and that ridicule, she had to drop out of school. She was kicked out of the house, had to live at the
Oh,
Salvation Army shelter until I was born. She projected that shame onto me. She actually was going to leave me at the hospital. My
oh,
grandma and great grandma went and got me,
oh,
and my
okay.
great
Yeah.
grandma took me home. But when my mother, after a few years, she met somebody, she met an older man at work. You want to talk about a narcissist? He's
Oh,
the
really?
embodiment of overt narcissism. He is like the picture in the dictionary of narcissism. And I didn't know what it was back then, but it was
Right.
very real because everybody thought, oh, look, you should go with your mother because now she's with this man who has a house and a car and he lives in the suburbs and you're both going to live this wonderful life that you wouldn't have otherwise.
Right.
And it was miserable. I would have
Yeah.
given anything to stay in my great grandma's apartment with her and live on bowls of white
Hmm.
rice and whatever we
Yeah.
could scrape up because what I walked into in that childhood was
Hmm.
absolute misery. I had a mother who hadn't wanted me. And again, I want to express that I was born on her 17th birthday. Talk
Oh,
about irony. She had her tubes tied immediately after I was birthed.
I'm
And
surprised they let her.
I am surprised too, but again, this is a woman who did not want children. So
Right.
here
Right.
I was, not wanted. Great grandma got me from the hospital. So now I was shoved on her once again. She was distant emotionally, physically, very neglectful in a lot of ways, and kind of pawned me off on her abusive narcissist husband who had complete control and domination over her. And he tried with me, but I always joke I was the horse he couldn't break because fortunately I was very loved by my great grandma and by my uncles and my cousins. And now here this man comes along and he's going to tell me that I should have never been born and that he shouldn't have to pay for another man's child. And just the horrific things I heard on a daily basis, which were followed by being dragged around by my hair and had once I picked up the phone to call 911 because he was beating the crap out of me. And he grabbed the phone and beat my head with the phone and banged my head against the wall.
Oh
I mean,
my
the
gosh.
things I endured, I mean, thank God I was never sexually abused, but
Yeah.
it was not a fun childhood. And my
Right.
mother dismissed it all and told me I should be more grateful for the food, clothing, and shelter provided to
Yeah.
me. So I felt like a dog. I felt like I was an
Right.
obligation. And lucky me if somebody could be bothered with me at all. So I
Hmm.
give that background because that makes sense then why I left that house at 18. I
Hmm.
mean, literally on my 18th birthday, I was like, bye, Felicia, I'm out.
Right. Yes. Yes, please.
And I walked straight into here's this young man who wasn't even that attractive, but he was actually arrogant and kind of a dick, honestly,
Yeah.
but he gave me a little attention.
Yeah.
And then he took advantage of me sexually, but I let him, honestly.
Right.
If I must be real, I was desperate. It was attention, it was affection that
Of
I didn't
course.
otherwise have.
Yeah.
And then he said he loved me, and that if he actually said to me the first night, he said, if I treat him like a king, he will treat me like a queen. And I thought that was a very odd
Oh,
thing to say to somebody.
okay.
But I'm like, okay, because I didn't know what I was, but I was obviously a people pleasing codependent.
Yes.
And I just wanted somebody to see me. And I
Right.
thought, if I jump through all the hoops, if I'm a good girl, he'll see me. He'll give me what I need. I need the
Yeah.
affection. I need the love. I need all the stuff. That's how you end up in a relationship like
Yeah.
that. That's how a strong willed, educated, and independent young woman can end
Yeah.
up in a relationship like that and stay for 25 years because one day he loved me and he would caress my cheek while we were watching Beverly Hills 90210 because that was the
Mhm.
show at the time and it was from
Yes,
Melrose
I
Place. They were
remember.
phenomenal. But then the next day, there were crowbars being swung at my head and
Yeah.
hockey sticks going through walls and doors coming off hinges. But he loved me and he would never do that again. He promises. And he'll stop drinking. He promises. He doesn't want to hurt me. He loves me. And I
Yeah.
wanted to believe that so much to believe
It's
that.
it's such the story is so similar for so many of us. I met my ex when I was 19 and we didn't get together right then, but we got together a few years later. And it's all I ever wanted from every really boy.
Yeah.
At that time, there were boys, every boy was, I need that love and affection that I'm
Yeah.
not getting elsewhere. And attention from boys. Oh my gosh. Yes. Like that was going to fill whatever need I
Yeah.
had in me. Yeah, the same thing with me. He told me he loved me like really fast. Slept with him the first date. And this is the thing that I always say, this has nothing to do with morality.
Yeah.
You're you get chemically bonded so fast. That's why it's like you have to be so careful when you're sleeping with somebody because we chemically bond.
Yes.
And that's what happened. And so, of course, I was swept off my feet. And he's
Yeah.
telling me he loves me. And he would tell me he loves me in bed. And oh my gosh, so much brainwashing. Yeah. They have the same playbook. I mean, it's all,
They all do.
they all do.
And
And
it's this push and pull though, because and I don't even want to say it's when you're young, because I was about to say when you're young, but when
yeah.
somebody tells you they love you and that's all you've ever wanted was
Yeah.
love, it's so appealing. Forgive the symbolism here, but I usually say it's like dangling a hot meal in front of a
Yeah.
starving Ethiopian child. I mean,
Yeah.
how do you not partake? You're
Right.
like, okay, you say you love me, whatever you want, then just
Yes.
give me
I'll
that
do
meal,
it.
give me that love. I will
Yeah.
do it. It's like a dog begging for treats. You're like
Yeah.
shaking, like, just give me that treat already, please,
Hmm.
please, please. But the
It's so
problem
true.
is that you do create, and it was the same for me. I didn't want to have sex with him, but he sort of he did force himself on me
Yeah.
that first night. So I just thought, okay, well, I'm
This
in
is
it.
what you're
We'll
supposed to
see where it
do.
goes.
Yeah.
I'm gonna, he says this. We're gonna see how that goes. And I believed him when he said he would change. I believed him when he said it
Yeah.
wouldn't happen again. And even when it happened again, I was like, maybe he had a bad day. Maybe if I
Mhm.
didn't react so strongly, maybe if I wasn't
Yeah.
so pushy or needy, or, I would
Yes.
always turn it to me because as a child, I was the scapegoat.
Yeah.
Everything was my fault. So I just assumed with him, his reactions were my fault. And then that
Yeah.
became like the theme of our 25 years together. If I so much as walked in the house and had the wrong expression on my face,
Oh,
everything
yes.
that happened that night would be my
Oh, for
fault.
sure. I think we were married to the same guy. No, I mean, it's so true. I mean, if only I loved him more or whatever. And then
Hmm.
also, we're being told that. We're being told
Yes.
if you were kinder, if you were whatever it is, like it doesn't matter. I can give you a list. It doesn't matter the list. Whoever it is that's listening right now, you have your own
Yes.
list because they've told you if only you would do this, then our marriage would be better. And I ad nauseum tried that for 32 years and nothing ever changed. But I just kept living off of hope and just because some days were
Yeah.
good, right? Some days were a
Yeah.
little, or even moments were a little bit
Yes.
better. So then you're like, oh, there he is. There's that guy I've been
A hundred
trying to
percent.
get back to because that's what we're really doing is trying to get back to the person they showed us at the beginning. And frankly, that was the mask. It was the fake part of them. They were just lying to us from the beginning. And so it drives me crazy. And people are like, how did you stay for so long? When people are lying to you and it's your husband, number one, like if I would have left, people would be like, why'd you leave so fast? Okay. It's like, but
Yeah.
when they're lying, what are you going to do? You don't know that they're lying. They're telling you everything you ever wanted to hear. That whole future faking thing where I want kids and I want to make a life with you and I want to do all these things. It draws you in. And I had that need like you did. It's like I wanted that love and I wanted to make a family with somebody and have this wonderful life that I thought I wanted. That's what I wanted. I mean, I'm so
Well, isn't
grateful
that
for
what
my kids.
everybody wants? I
Yeah.
mean, what even if you want or do not want kids, you
Yeah.
want that person. You want to be somebody's person and you want
Yeah.
somebody to be your person.
Yeah.
But I have to give, you hit the nail on the head, well, with everything, but specifically with who they are and trying to get back to that.
Yeah.
For me, that was such a sticky point because in a lot of our arguments, it was always my fault that I changed. And I'm like, no, it's not that I changed.
Yeah.
I am just looking at you. This is who you were. This is who you have been through
Right.
various moments, through
Yeah.
those good times and those moments. So I know you're capable of it,
Right.
which means the bad times are your choice. You are choosing to
Yeah.
treat me badly. You're saying you love me and you're choosing to punish me
Oh my gosh.
because your ego can't handle reality. Like, and that for me was the thing that
Okay.
showed me. And that's kind of when my rose colored glasses came off, where I was like, he loves me, but he's choosing to
Yeah.
abuse me. He's choosing to hurt me. He wants me to be in pain. He wants me to suffer. And then by the end of that 25 years, it was he actually wants me to be dead.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a whole other level that I
Mhm.
just cannot in my brain fathom. So when people, yeah, poo poo on me about, oh, it
Yeah.
can't be that bad, you don't understand the
No.
psychological
Mm-mm.
warfare. And let me just, I'm a neuroscience junkie.
Great.
We cannot ignore the fact that neuroscience has proven it's a
Mhm.
basic thing. If you hear something repeatedly, if you experience
Yeah.
something repeatedly, your brain believes it. Your brain doesn't give a crap if you're happy. Your brain doesn't give a
Yeah.
crap if you're being abused, mistreated. Your brain reverts to what is familiar. So when somebody is repeatedly saying, I love you, you believe that they love you,
Right.
but you also believe that the mistreatment is your fault because it can't be
They're
them.
being
Their ego can't handle the
right.
accountability for the mistreatment. It's your fault because if you hadn't said or you hadn't done,
Yeah.
so why the trauma bond? Why you stay? Because you honestly think it's you. And why do
Yeah.
so many of us come out of it and say, I'm worried I'm the narcissist? Am I the
Yeah.
narcissist?
Yeah.
That's why, because it's our fault, right? Which
Yes.
I always say, just if anyone, if that has crossed anyone's mind, if you've ever thought,
Yes.
oh my gosh, am I the narcissist? The fact that you're even worried about it, the
Yes.
answer is no, because a narcissist would immediately be like, no, I'm not. It's you. I'm
Right.
not the narcissist.
Exactly.
They can't be labeled with anything. So
Oh
it
no.
is very important for people to understand the trauma bond goes beyond a
Hmm.
mental or emotional attachment. Your
Yeah.
body, there's actually chemicals and hormones in your
Yeah.
brain that literally make you feel like a crack whore coming down
It's
when you
so
try to leave, which is
true.
why it takes on average 7 times for a woman to leave. And ironically, the seventh attorney I talked to is the one that got me the divorce. And I told him it
Wow.
better be fast. And it was 3 weeks because
Oh
I
my
was
gosh, that's
afraid,
amazing. I
it was the
I
best
did
thing
six
ever.
weeks. I did 6 weeks. So that
That's still
so
pretty
that
good.
it is. It is. I also, I mean, it's Nevada. You can get married really fast or divorced really fast. Plus, we didn't have any minor children, but I also
Right.
think he hid money from me. So anyway, but that
Yeah,
there's nothing
been
I can do
there.
about that. That whole thing, what they're saying to you, he would say these terrible things to me. And I would
Mhm.
be like, why can't you say like nice things to me? And he'd be like, well, I'm trying to help you. And I'm
Oh,
also playing devil's advocate. And you should work on your self esteem so that no matter what I say to you, you will have good self esteem. And I'd be like,
wow.
but why can't you just say nice things rather than really mean things? Well, I'm just trying to help you. Devil's advocate. That's all that ever came out of his mouth. Like, it didn't matter if I just won the Nobel Peace Prize. Okay. He would be like, here's the downside. Okay, here's the downside of you winning $1 million and are recognized for peace. Like, and so he would tell me all about the downside, and I'd be like, I don't understand. Why can't you be happy for me? And it just was that whole thing. I'm playing devil's advocate. I'm like, no.
Yeah.
Now looking back, I'm like, no, you just had no way to even.
You can't win. You
No,
just
you
can't.
can't
They
win.
will
And
not see any good.
no, they can't see any good. I mean, I really think because it's such a shame based disorder, we're going to
Yes.
say disorder. They don't have to be
I know. Yeah.
diagnosed, but it's so shame based and they truly hate themselves. Okay. I know
Yes.
that's so hard to believe if you're hearing this. If you're dealing with like a grandiose
Yes.
narcissist or something, ones that maybe like run countries and things like that. I say like I'm the best at everything and all that. They actually hate themselves. They actually hate
Yeah.
themselves. And so they have to project that onto you because they need you to be lower. So it was exhausting to me. I mean, I'm sure you do too. Teaching self-esteem and boundaries. God,
Oh,
that self-love.
boundaries
I
is
mean,
everywhere.
I didn't even want to be alive. So it's like he
Yes.
wasn't going to be the one who stopped my life. That's
Well,
how I got to.
exactly. And for me, I had the double whammy because, see, my stepfather was a very overt narcissist. He
Right.
was the I'm the best and I'm the greatest and nobody
Yes.
can drive a Corvette like I do and look at my
Right.
house and look at my things and but
Yeah.
yeah, it is very much a hate and shame based disorder.
Yeah.
I'm not sure it's a disorder more as much as a psychopathy, but
Oh, for sure. Yes.
yeah,
I
go
want to
ahead.
ask you, your ex was covert narcissist?
Yes,
And
very
so
much. So
and
I
so
was
that's
raised by
so
an
hard.
overt, married a covert.
Yeah.
That's why it kind of hit me a little differently. Like
Yes, it's
I
hard.
felt the arrogance and entitlement and it didn't make sense.
Yes.
But he was more like, I call it like the Eeyore complex, like
Oh,
in
yeah, for
Winnie the
sure.
Pooh, Eeyore, nothing good ever happens to me,
Yes.
poor me. And so it
Ah,
hits you differently than the person who's out there like, oh, look at me,
I'm
I'm so
so
freaking
great.
great.
Yes,
Right. And
exactly.
let me just, because I know everybody has some idea of narcissism, but I have a
Yeah.
really good explanation just because people,
Yeah, that'd be
there's so
great.
much, it's so loosely
Yes,
used and we
exactly.
need to
Yeah.
kind of clarify it. The best way that I've been able to describe it and think of it is like tumors. I always say it's on a scale. On the
Yes.
one end, the end that's not harmful to people are your plain old narcissist. This is what like a benign tumor. It's
Yeah.
there, it might annoy you, it's not really bothering you. Like these are the people on social media that actually are hot as hell and are as they look as good as
Yes.
they think they do.
Yeah.
And it might be annoying and you might want to hate them, but you can't because they're really
Right.
fun to be around. And, you know, it is what
Right.
it is. And then you keep going down the scale, you go to the very opposite end to my stepfather and my ex-husband. Malignant narcissists
Yeah.
are like malignant tumors. They will
Yes.
cause you problems. They're trying to
Right.
cause you problems. They
Yes.
might even try to kill you. They have to be
Yeah.
cut out of your life. There's just no
There's
other
no
way.
other way.
If they
Yeah.
target you, you got to cut them out. There's no other option. So just to give people an idea that
Yeah.
like the malignant narcissists, that is a very high percentage of our male US prison population. And I'm
Yeah.
not picking on men, but the prevalence is
Oh
much
no, the
higher in
prevalence
men
is
than in women. But
yes,
the
that's
female
what I
narcissists, I've dealt with one more, I'm still dealing with one
okay.
recently, and they're a whole other creature.
They are. I've dealt with some of those too and have had to cut them out of my
Oh,
life.
yeah.
And that's is such a good way to say that with the tumor, because it's like you think about that. You wouldn't have a malignant tumor in your body and go, you know what? I'm just going to like talk nicely to it and see if it just goes away. No, you got to cut that thing out.
Yeah, you do.
I was coaching somebody when we were talking earlier about, am I the narcissist? I was coaching somebody actually yesterday, and I had to have the biggest conversation with her about, oh
Yeah.
my God, you are not the narcissist. And I had to like even give her examples. But we talked about this when you have these people in your life, there's no good way to keep them. If
No,
in
there's
every
not.
single time, because as an example, she was going down the road of maybe I need to go on depression medication, which frankly, fine. That, I mean, do whatever you want, right? But
Yeah.
I was like, I want you to start keeping track of when you talk to these people in your family, which it was all family, and then how you feel, because it's correlated, and that's why you
Absolutely.
have to cut them out. So I love that. I love that idea of the tumor. It's so true. So
Well,
I always talk about that because people, of course, every time I go on a podcast, they want to know what a narcissist is. And I always give just baseline is that they have a high need for control.
mhm.
And
They feel entitled
yeah,
to
it's that
treat you
entitlement.
and to have, and they're entitled to everything. They have
Yes.
the basic, like for me, the baseline is they feel so badly about themselves deep down
Yeah.
that they have to feel superior. Their
Right.
ego has to, it just craves that feeling of superiority.
Yeah.
So if it means diminishing you, treating you like crap, whatever it is they have to do. And I am talking about malignant narcissists because your regular narcissists,
Well,
they're not
but
going to do this. But there is that scale. But
yeah.
most narcissists, they do feel badly about themselves. They're insecure. So to
Yeah.
make themselves feel better, I
Yeah.
always liken it to like if they can knock you down and step on top of you to be
Yeah.
king of the
Seriously.
hill, that's
Yeah.
what they're trying to do. That is the goal. Whereas somebody like you and me, if you fell down, I would reach a hand down and be like, oh
Yes.
my gosh, are you okay? Let me help pick you up. They're
Right.
going to step on you and they're going to rise to the top and take the crown.
Oh, for sure.
That's
And
the
that's
whole
that's a
goal.
thing, right. It's that, that high need of control, that they have such a demand they have such a need for admiration from like you
Yeah.
and everyone else, right?
Yeah.
With me, even the covert, my ex was a covert, he would still do those kinds of things. Like
Oh, yeah.
he would, it didn't matter. So, but inside the house, right?
Yeah.
Outside the house, nobody ever saw him any other
Oh,
way
no.
except the nice guy. That's why I named my book what I did, because he was such a nice guy. Everybody just loved him. And I would be like, but where? Like, what are you guys
Yeah.
talking about? So it was so confusing, right? Because with a covert, they're one way at home and one way out in public. So that's why I want you guys to hear this. They know exactly what they're doing. And
They
we
absolutely do.
cannot sit here and let them get away with, well, he had a bad childhood and his mother didn't love him. Okay,
Yeah,
that's
that
cool.
doesn't
There's
matter. So
therapy.
did I, and I treated my kid just fine. Like I
Exactly.
am still capable of love and have an open heart. But
Yes.
if I may, I want to go back. I
Yeah.
love that you told the person yesterday to keep track of what's going on in their life. And like for me, I'm a type A and I'm a Capricorn. So I have a
Yeah.
double whammy of I have to have things structured and
Yeah.
organized and recognize patterns. I
Yes.
actually created a spreadsheet because
Oh,
one of
awesome.
the biggest, well, aside from that, I just was miserable. One of the
Yeah.
biggest reasons for leaving that marriage, choosing to end it, was my health. Now, I was having for about a year and a half at the end, I was having a ridiculous number of unrelated symptoms. And I mean dozens of random
Yes.
symptoms. Everything from cardiovascular, muscular, digestive, neurological. My body was
Yeah.
in havoc. It didn't make sense to give people a little idea. I was one of those weirdos that ran 5 miles a day, ate apples and
Hmm.
hard-boiled eggs for lunch. I coached cross country. I was a healthy girl. I
Yeah.
tried to live
Yeah.
a good, active lifestyle. So all of these things happening in my body did not make sense. So being the type A Cappy that I am, I
Yeah.
made a spreadsheet on Excel and I started to monitor when I was having the migraines, when my hands were going numb, when I was blacking
Oh,
out, when I was having heart palpitations, when all the things. And then I realized like a month in, I'm like, I feel like
wow.
stress is involved. So I added a column, stress level, low, medium, high. And when it was medium to high, I would have a little comment section where I'd say what he did that day that was
Okay.
particularly
Yeah.
exhausting
Right.
or traumatizing or
Right.
jarring.
Yes.
And let me just go to the end result. Long story short, the title of my first book is called Gasping for Air. The
Wow.
reason, because after all these doctors, I was sent to every specialist. I had every test under the sun, and every doctor found something wrong with me and wanted to throw a pill at me. Long and short, I get to Mayo Clinic and they decide I needed a cortisol test. I didn't even know what cortisol was.
Yeah.
Cortisol is your stress hormone. At any given time, it should be between 100 and 700. I
Okay.
don't know what the level of measurement is, I forgot, but between 1 and 700. And the cortisol test requires you to take a swab in your mouth 5 times a day, specific times. And this is through the
Oh,
24-hour period,
okay.
including you have to wake up in the middle of the night and swab.
Yeah.
So we do the cortisol test. They get the results, and the lab says, well, we must have compromised these labs because there's no way these results are correct. You
Oh
have to
my
redo the test. You
gosh.
redo the test. No, the labs were not, in fact, wrong. My levels, and again, they should be for any person
Yeah.
between 100 and at the most stressful point in your day, in a stressful situation, maybe 700. Round the clock, mine were over 2,500.
Wow.
You want to talk about living in fight or flight mode?
Yeah,
I had been living in fight or flight mode since I was, what, 6, 7 years old. And I
exactly.
was in my mid 40s. I ended up being diagnosed with autoimmunity because all
Yeah.
that cortisol was perceived by my white blood cells to be some threat that they needed to eradicate.
Yeah. Yeah.
So they ended up killing themselves off. So
Oh
I'm
my gosh.
autoimmune. Then I developed a lung syndrome that is rare, actually, although surprisingly, it shouldn't be surprising, is common among abuse victims. But the neurologist likened it to having COPD and fibromyalgia all at once. So people can have an idea of what my body
Oh my
was
gosh.
going through. When I say unrelated random symptoms,
Yeah.
and they were multiple ones daily. That is what stress and
Yeah.
living in a stressful situation did to me. And thankfully, I had more of a holistic neurologist that said, I can't give you a pill. I can't give you a surgery because, of course, I was born with a narrow airway. So opening my airway wasn't an
Oh, okay.
option. He said, I don't know what is so toxic to you in your life, but whatever it is, you
Wow.
need to get rid of it. Now, I didn't need anyone to tell me,
What
or
it
I
was.
knew right away. It was my
So what
ex, it
year?
was my mother, it was my
Yeah, is your whole
stepfather, it
life.
was
Yeah.
everything. That was the end of 2018.
Okay.
2019, I went into, I think, like any person, especially one that has feelings and is empathetic and has
Hmm.
felt lonely her whole life and wanted to belong and to be accepted and wanted love,
Yeah.
you don't just go home and burn shit down.
No.
I have a son I had to think about. How do you walk away from an entire life that you've lived for a
Yeah.
couple of decades? Where was I going to go? Back to my mother and stepfather's abusive home? There was a lot to think about. But when it came down to it, I remember just laying there one night, feeling sorry for myself in the basement because I refused to sleep with him. I slept on the couch in the basement.
Yeah.
And I just remember just looking at the ceiling and thinking, what do I want? Because it's not this. This is
Hmm.
not it. This doesn't feel good. And I realized that I always knew what I wanted. I mean, I of
Mm.
course wanted to be married, to have my person, to have love. I wanted to
Yeah.
be happy. I
Hmm.
wanted to use my degree in journalism and my minor in psychology. Like there were things
Yeah.
plans I had had for my life, but here I was in this podunk town where I didn't want to be with a man I didn't want to be married with, cleaning houses because that's what he decided I should do was scrub toilets and floors for work,
Yeah.
even though I had a college degree and could have been very accomplished. So, yeah, something had to change. And I just realized that my health, my life was not worth this man that clearly didn't love me. And I
Right.
loved my son, but I'm like, I love my son and I enough to
Yeah.
not do this anymore.
That's
And let me
amazing.
tell you, I'm sharing this because, and this is the whole reason, this kind of leads back to the first question you asked me.
Yeah.
Why do I do what I do? Because it all goes to that book. I was so compelled once I
Yes.
got out of that situation that I'm like, I did not realize that even
Yeah.
though he had hurt me physically and even though he wanted me not to even exist,
Yeah.
as same as my mother and stepfather, who also attempted my life, I had a responsibility to let people know, like, if
Yeah.
you're in an abusive situation or even just a toxic situation, that emotional distress will manifest physically. They don't have to lay a finger on you
No.
to get to you, to
No.
affect your life, to affect the way you live. You hear the scratchiness in my voice. That's my lung syndrome. Because
Yeah.
sometimes when I talk a lot, I sound like I've been smoking a pack of cigarettes every day
Right.
my whole life, and I've never touched a cigarette.
Yeah.
So people need to understand I have a breathing machine. I have to take my heart rate. I have
Yeah.
bradycardia. 5 minutes from now, I could be so weak that I get a fever and I have to lay down
Yeah.
because my heart doesn't want to pump. This is the reality. These are the souvenirs of a toxic
Yeah.
relationship. So you're not doing anything noble. You're not
No.
doing anything right by your kids. The best thing I ever did was get out of that marriage. And what I offer to people now is,
Hmm.
well, not just all the things we offer, which is the information and the hope, but my son is 22 now. He did not come out unscathed, but boy,
Yeah.
he has such a big social life, lots of friends. He kills it at work. He's with a
That's so
national
great.
company making more money than a 22-year-old should make. And he has his own home that he bought by himself at 19. I am so proud of who he has become, but I'm even prouder of who I have become because I
Yeah.
kept my heart open despite all that. I could have been one of those people who said, I don't trust anybody.
Yeah.
I'm never going to love anybody ever again. I'm
Yeah.
just going to isolate myself so I can't get hurt. But you know what? Nobody wants to live that way.
Yeah.
Nobody does. There are people out there that won't hurt you. And
Yeah.
when you take the blinders off and stop focusing on the people you want to love you,
Oh,
you might actually
gosh.
see the people around you that have been waiting for you to open your damn eyes
That's so
because they
true.
do see something beautiful in front of them and they want to be a part of that and share
Hmm.
that with you. And that is fortunately what happened for me. Within 2.5 years, just 2.5 years
Yeah.
of ending that marriage with my ex, I not only remarried somebody that I'd known for quite some time and who
Hmm.
I love and adore dearly, and who I respect most of all,
Yes.
I published a memoir trilogy, a best-selling and award-winning debut memoir
That's
that
amazing.
was gasping for air. I have been on over 300 podcasts. I have been in magazines. I'm going to be on a magazine cover this year. I have my own show. And like these things aren't by chance. It is
Yes.
because I finally realized that I had to stop living the life that was dictated to me and live the life that was always in my heart. And once I stopped abandoning myself and dismissing and suppressing what I wanted, just all opened up.
Isn't it
It just
amazing?
all exploded. And
It's
I want people
amazing.
to understand
Yeah.
you may not see the other side of the rainbow. You don't
No,
see the light at the end of the tunnel. You don't
no.
see the rainbow after the storm. But oh my gosh, I
Yes.
promise you, it
Yes.
is so unbelievably amazing
It is.
if you have the bravery inside of you.
Yeah.
You can step outside of your situation and the trauma bond will go away. All the cortisol,
Yes.
all the stuff will go away.
Yeah. That's amazing. Dina, that's like, it's so amazing and so encouraging. And it's so true. And that's what I try to encourage women. It's like, you don't need to have it all figured out. You're not even
No,
going to know what you want once you just need to
you have
get to,
no idea.
you just need to get to safety. I always say, just make the next right step. That's it. Just take
Yes.
one step.
Yes.
What's the next step? Because all I knew was I got to get out. Because my therapist, even though I didn't know he was a narcissist yet, I just knew, am I doing this for 40 years? Am I going to do this for 40 more years? Like his parents are still married. My mom and dad were together 60 years. I'm like, am I doing this for a long time? Because I can't even handle this. I just don't think I'll survive it.
Yeah,
And because I didn't want to be alive anymore.
I agree.
And it's so terrible. And that's all it took for me to leave. And my therapist said, where are you going to live? And what are you going to do for work? Because I was staying home at the time. And I said, I don't know and I don't care. And yes, that does come from a place of privilege. But that's the point I got to was I don't know and I don't care. And I moved in with my brother and I lived
Mhm.
in a room. That's because rather than my beautiful house that I had and everything else, because I couldn't afford to buy him out. But my dad even said, is this better? I'm like, better? What do you mean? He just didn't know how to verbalize. Is this better? And I was like, yes, this is better than being married to him. Yes.
Yeah.
That's what I tried to get him to understand. He didn't know how to verbalize it. He didn't even understand because with a covert, they just don't understand. Like
And
I
you know
didn't even,
what?
it's so hard to unravel
It's
it
not
all.
for anybody to understand.
No.
And
Mm-mm.
honestly, I felt like I had to understand. I think anybody that comes
Yeah.
out of it, you find them on Facebook groups
Yeah.
and listening to podcasts and trying to find out and relating
Yeah.
and trying to put puzzle pieces together. There came a point, and this is how I knew I was starting to heal, when it just didn't matter anymore. I don't
Yes.
need to understand it to
Right.
know what it felt like. I
Yes,
don't need to
exactly.
explain it to anybody. I
Right.
don't need other people to approve the understanding of it or what
Yes.
happened. It happened. It sucked. I'm out. I'm good. The end.
And that's why even when we're talking about like the definition, all that, you don't need a definition. You don't need a checklist. You don't need any of these things. Do you want permission? We're giving you permission. Like just open your eyes
Yes,
because that's all it took for me was like, am I doing this for the rest of my life? Because no, I can't. So
exactly.
whatever that was, I still had not uncovered all the lying and all the cheating and the hiding and I
Exactly.
hadn't uncovered all that.
Exactly.
I just knew the person who says out of one side of their mouth that they love me, but yet treats me like garbage and doesn't and frankly, he stopped talking to me, stopped being intimate with me. He was just like
Hmm.
sweeping announcement. I'm
Yeah.
just not going to anymore. And
Yeah,
that's
mine
it.
did that too. He's like, I'm not
Yes.
interested in intimacy. And I'm like, because I rejected you every time. Like,
Isn't this, my gosh, they're such
they
freaking
have to make it
babies.
about them.
They do. And I told him, he said, well, I'll do it if you want. You just have to let me know. And I was like, I don't understand. I said, is this because every once in a while I say no? And he's like, well, I just, my feelings get hurt. And I'm like, so
I'm
what?
sorry.
So I know. You're such
I
fucking
would never laugh
cowards.
if somebody said their feelings were hurt, but when it's a narcissist, it's just a show. It's their little play.
It is. I mean, and it's like, it's just was all about, look, it's all about control. I mean,
Mhm.
what did they, I don't know what he wants. And
It's a
so
narrative. They have
it's,
to have a narrative, which,
yes,
that's how our brains work. We all tell ourselves
yes, of
stories
course.
that protect our ego. It's our version of the
Hmm.
truth because that's what we're comfortable with.
Yeah.
But narcissists, boy, the even as a child, not knowing what narcissism was, with my
Yes.
mother and stepfather, something would happen. And I remember I had a couple little friends,
Yeah.
I would say, my mom and dad are making stories again. They're making up stories
So
again. I call them
you knew
stories.
something.
I
Yeah.
didn't even know what
Right.
narcissism was or what narratives were, but I would say they're making up stories again. And I was always told what the story was. They would sit me down and like brief me. It was like being at the White House. I was getting a
Yes.
briefing every
Yeah.
day of whatever bullshit we were going to put out in the world
Yes,
because that was our
exactly.
story and we're sticking to it.
Yes.
But when I got to be about a teenager, about 15, and I got to be as big as mom
Yeah.
and almost stepdad. I was still a
Yeah.
little, probably an inch taller than him. But, you know, when you get bigger, you get bolder. And when you
Yeah.
get angry, when you get so hurt, it turns into anger. And when you have injustice,
Yeah.
well, that just takes it to a whole new level. So when they would hit me, I would hit back.
Okay.
And when
Yeah.
they would go at me hard enough, I would go and tell the authorities. I
Right.
told the cops. I told social services.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, they all believed the stories. And the story was
Of
that
course.
I self-inflicted handprints around my own neck.
Oh
I
my
self-inflicted
gosh.
bruises all over my face and on my body.
Yeah.
And you know what? Whatever. If that's what people
Yeah.
wanted to believe, if that's what we're going to do, fine. I stayed alive. I flew under the radar and got the hell out of there at 18. But yeah, it's unfortunate when you are a grown woman and
Yeah.
find yourself in the same situation,
Yeah.
except that you love, like for me, honestly, I fell in love with his family. I had a family in his that
Okay.
I didn't have in mine.
Yeah.
And where are they now? Yeah, nowhere, of course.
Well,
I
of
was just
course. I
blown
mean,
away with everything else.
yeah.
So.
Oh, I always thought when I first met his family, I'm like, it's like freaking Norman Rockwell around here. Like we're gonna
Yeah,
sit around
exactly.
we're sitting around the piano, literally singing,
Yes.
Christmas carols. And I was like, this is what I've always wanted. And then slowly but surely the mask started falling off. I'm like, oh,
Isn't that
I
funny?
see.
I
Okay.
always called it Beaver Cleaver with my
Yes,
ex-family,
exactly. Yes.
ex-in-laws. I was like, they were too perfect, and they were. They were the loveliest people. And some of
Yes.
them really are, but then I
Yes.
started seeing the cracks in the facade and like,
That's it.
oh, this
Yeah.
is why he's the way he is.
Oh, for sure. And I mean, there's so much. I mean, I could
Yeah,
do an entire episode. I
that's a
could
whole
do an
other
entire
show.
episode on the family dynamics. And I used to be like, well, okay, his family, I understand, but okay, yeah, we can do that all day long. And it's why I think like at first wasn't understanding the trauma bond and I sort of felt bad. But until I learned, and this is why it's so important and why I started talking, because once I started to understand, I had a name for my pain. Okay. So I
Mhm.
knew what it was. And then I started to understand the definitions of things because I was like, how do I hate him and I still love him and miss
Yeah.
him? Understanding all those things, the trauma bond and cognitive dissonance, where we can hold two things at one time. And this is why I talk so that other people will be like, well, I feel crazy. Well, yeah, of course you feel crazy. That is their entire goal, is to, set you unbalanced with
Mhm.
gaslighting and everything else. And I didn't know we could hold two things at one time. So
But that's what makes you feel crazy, because
yes,
it's not that you're holding two things at once, it's the conflict of those. Because on
right.
the one hand, you feel the uneasiness,
Yeah.
you know this isn't right, you know something's off, something's wrong. And on the other hand, the face of that is saying, I love you, I love you, I love you.
Yes.
And this is my husband or my wife or the whoever.
Yeah.
And this is so it's a conflict. So I
It's,
want,
yeah.
and forgive me for interrupting, but
No,
I
go
think that
ahead.
is such
No.
a key point,
Yeah.
because we have all felt like we were crazy. And there are many people, as you had shared,
Yeah.
that are taking medication for depression and this and that. My ex convinced me
Of
back
course.
in 2007 that I was bipolar, that
Yeah.
I was crazy. He called me crazy all the time, but specifically
Yeah.
bipolar. And I went to the psychiatrist and I answered all the questions. And guess what I came home with? Two mood stabilizers for bipolar disorder and an anti-anxiety medication. And I was on them for over a decade. When I finally, when our marriage
Yeah.
was over, and I had my yearly checkup with the psychiatrist, and he said, "Oh, what's been going on in the last year?" I'm like, "Oh, I don't know. Got divorced from an abusive narcissist and all this other stuff."
And he was
We
like,
started talking. He never asked me about,
no, of
doctors even.
course.
They don't ask about trauma. They
No.
don't ask about what's going on at home. He actually was, and he was an excellent doctor, but
Yeah.
he actually, admitted, he's like, "Oh my gosh, all this time I've diagnosed you as bipolar, and you
Yes.
have CPTSD.
Exactly.
You do not need these medications. You need to be off of them." And I was on one particular one that was a hard hitter. And you want to talk about a crack whore coming down.
Yes.
I was violently physically ill for months, and I mean months,
Yeah. To
being
get
weaned
off of
off of
that.
that.
Yeah.
And that in itself was a hell I don't wish on anybody. But again, for anybody, we've all been called crazy, but for
Always.
those that have been made to feel so crazy that we end up on them, I am
Yes.
on no medications right now. And let me
Mhm.
tell you, do I have days? Yeah, we all get a little spicy some
Of
days,
course.
that's just
Yes.
life. Do I get sad some days? Yes, that's life. That's just the human experience. That's the variety of emotions you feel. But I am not on any medications now. I'm not bipolar, and even CPTSD, I kind of kick that in the ass.
That's
So
amazing.
there
Yeah.
is hope. And I'm not special I mean, I'm a vibe, but like I'm not special
Right.
in the scheme of things. We all have this power inside of us. We just have to unravel it. And it's about
Yeah.
finding the right person who,
Yeah.
whether it's you, me, whoever, that's going to
Yeah.
help you understand it in the way that your brain can accept it and understand it and
That's
get
just it.
past it.
Well, because for so long, right? And for us, decades of being told you're crazy, because I had the same thing. We went to marriage counseling because
Yeah.
I was,
Yep.
we went to marriage counseling a few times. And because I just didn't understand how we could never figure things out. And he didn't
Right.
understand what I was saying. And so we went to marriage counseling. Yeah, I left one time on medication, because it was me that was the problem. And
Yep.
I don't know how many times, every single thing. And I always tell this story, and I don't care. I'll tell it for the rest of my life. The last marriage counselor we saw told me he was really handsome. And what was I complaining about? Yeah.
Wow.
And talk about, but I see, I already had one foot out the door by that point.
Yeah.
I tried that 7 times somebody tries to leave. Yeah. Even though I didn't physically walk out the door, I had a plan with a friend that I was going to go live with her for a week to send a message. Thinking back, poor Laura, but I was in survival mode. I was like,
Oh, yeah.
why does my husband not love me? Even though he's saying he loves me, but he's not acting like he loves me. Like these two things are happening.
Yeah.
And so I did that for months. And by the time we did our final attempt at marriage counseling, when she said that, oh, I had the most reactive rage. I was like a
I bet you
toddler.
did.
I was like a toddler. And in my head, I was like, I'm done. Like I am out. And I couldn't even believe when the words came out of my mouth when I eventually said that. And to the point where I went in the bedroom and I was like, I hope he doesn't get mad at me. I'm just like, I was still in survival mode. What was I going to do?
But you know what? And that's the sad part is that I wanted out since 2005 and I
Yeah.
didn't get divorced till 2020.
Mm-hmm.
So whether
Yeah.
it's your religion, society, even
Yes.
my mother of all people,
Of
why
all
I even
people.
confided in her,
Yeah.
she was like, well, you made a vow to him. It doesn't matter if he's cheating and stealing money out of and all the
Right.
stuff.
Yeah.
It's just you made a vow. You're supposed to stay. You're not supposed to get divorced. I go to church. Well, you're Catholic. We don't get divorced. And
Yep.
you just have to sacrifice. I'm here to tell people, and it's not that
Yes.
I disrespect God or source or
Mm-hmm.
universe or
Yep.
your mama or whoever, but
Right.
the reality is, and I say this all the time, when somebody dies, you have this like reflection and this epiphany that, oh my gosh, life is so short, life is so short.
Yes.
Life is short. You don't know if
Right.
you have 40 years, 80 years. I've
Yeah.
seen 2-year-olds die, and I've
Right.
seen people die at 100.
Yeah.
The only time you have is now. And if you are in a situation where you have tried and hoped and wished and
Yeah.
waited, let me tell you something. Patterns are proof.
Yeah.
And when somebody, I don't care, I say this now, I go through life like this,
Mm-hmm.
death.
Yeah.
Your actions show me how you feel about me.
Exactly. Yeah.
I don't care what you say. And honestly, I love my husband with all my heart, my
Yeah.
current husband. There are times where I just say, like, I don't even want to hear your words. Like, prove it
Right.
in your action.
Yes,
Follow
exactly.
through. That's
Yeah.
where I'm going to, yeah, I don't care. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear
I
anything. I
didn't.
don't want the promises. I don't want the bullshit.
Yes.
I don't want the excuses. I just want to see it. The
I
end.
didn't
And
know
that might
that.
seem harsh, but
I,
it's what
I
it is.
I really didn't know that your words and action should match because I
Yeah.
was so trained to not
Right.
believe that. I
Well,
was
they
so
want you to
trained.
doubt yourself because if you doubt
Yes.
yourself, you don't trust yourself. And when you don't trust yourself,
Yeah.
you can't make rational decisions. On top of that, they
Right.
prevent you from sleeping. They put you on, psych drugs because they
Yes.
convince you you're crazy and you go to the
Right.
doctor. And the next thing you know, you're relying on them to tell you what to think, what to say, what to wear,
Right.
what to eat, what to believe.
Hmm.
To say you've lost yourself is an understatement, but we've all
Oh,
been there. But
seriously.
you're still in there. I always say the ashes are in there somewhere. There's
Yes.
still a fire that you can
That's right.
start blowing on it and
That's right. You will
it'll come
rise
back.
from the ashes like a phoenix.
Yes,
I'm telling you.
exactly.
No, it's so true. And people are like, I don't know who I am anymore and all that. Exactly. And so that's why it's like
That's the point.
I mean, that's the whole point for them.
You have to not be you. You have
Yeah,
to be who they want you to be.
exactly. Yeah. And
Which is
it's so,
subservient and controlled and manipulated and
and
basically
it doesn't
operating.
even
And I always
matter.
say it's a Stepford wife. You're in servitude to them. And if you can't
Yes.
do it, you have to
Yeah.
look the look and play the part and say the thing and smile.
Yeah.
And when you're done with it and they see that you've seen through the bull, well, then
Yeah.
be prepare. It's not going to go out nicely, but
Yeah.
you'll be better off for it in the end.
That's why, I have resources. And that's why if you, want to leave, you have to do it very quietly. I have a whole escape plan on my
Mm,
website. So I have tons of resources. And one of them is, because you brought it up earlier, I'm a Christian and I had some pushback from the church as well. But until I found Christians who talk about this and how it's
yes.
okay and it's
Yes.
biblically okay to leave abuse.
Yes.
And so for people who need permission for that, I have an entire thing of resources to show you that it's okay. And, you can still love God. He doesn't want you in abuse. Like it's
Exactly.
just like it's in the Bible for that. We've created some things that I had such a hard time with that. I was in a divorce group that it just we felt worse. Like there was a group of us were like, we feel worse. It's like they
Yeah.
are partners. Okay. This is the thing is it was very much a divorce group for people maybe who had irreconcilable differences. Let me tell you, of the 15 of us in that group, all of us had been abused. All of us. And so
Unreal.
even if it was psychological, no, I had a few of them that were full on physical, marital rape, all that. Right. And I'm like, oh, this group is not for us. Cause like we'd start talking and like our local hockey team at that time was in the Stanley Cup finals and everything. And so we would all like go to the bar after this church group and to go watch the hockey game and we would talk. And I'm like, oh my God, we've all been abused. And so this
Yeah.
group, that's why you have to find the right support for you. You have to find,
Yeah.
because if it doesn't feel good, I had some of the girls telling me, I feel worse when I leave this group. And I'm like, me too. I just
Yeah,
don't, it shouldn't
probably
be that
because you
way.
were being faced with the truth. It was recalling things, as your nervous system starts to regulate when you come out of it. I mean, it
Yeah.
takes years, but as your nervous system feels safer, it will
Yeah.
allow your brain to accept truths that it couldn't handle when you
Yeah.
were still in the situation. So, probably hearing other people's stories was recalling things,
Oh, yeah,
memories
for
in
sure.
all of
And
your
also,
brains, and it's
you know,
uncomfortable.
it is. And also feeling like something we had done something wrong by getting a
Right.
divorce, where I'm sitting there going, all of our spouses are off with their new partners already. Many of
Yeah.
them had cheated, and so it's like, and we're sitting in a group trying to heal. So it was just, anyway, that was a whole can of worms. And
No,
uh,
I hear you on that.
I
I
did all
I
that.
was very fortunate that the day after my divorce, I had a few priests in our
Oh,
area that were very supportive of
that's
me. I
awesome.
walked in the day after my divorce with my papers, and for $40 they signed it and it was annulled. They didn't
Oh,
ask any questions. I didn't have
that's
to go through the
amazing.
canonical, the whole
Yeah.
jury. And
Yeah.
so if anyone's Catholic, I can just attest on my
Yes.
behalf that there was a lot of support, and I was not
Yeah.
shamed as I had been by
Yeah.
previous parishes that I had been involved
Yeah.
in. And it was very easy. Now, I wish I could erase that 25 years from my brain, just like the church erased
Right.
the
Yes.
marriage altogether.
Yes.
It never happened.
That's amazing.
But the thing is that I tell people, even if religion, because it was a big hindrance for me,
Yes. Yes.
but as you said, I always say I can walk into a church and this floor does not separate. The devil
Yes.
does not reach up from the spawns of hell and
Exactly.
drag me down. I
Yes.
still believe that I have entrance into heaven because I have done enough good and have a good heart and
Right.
soul and have good
Exactly.
intentions. But at the end of the day, you have to do what's right for you.
Yeah.
And let's be real about, I'm sure everybody's heard these statistics, but the recent statistics are 1 out of 3 women globally experience intimate partner
Yes.
abuse. And that's what's reported, because I would argue that it's probably
Oh,
more.
for sure.
But what kills me, well, no pun intended, now that I think of it, one woman dies every 10 minutes.
Oh my
One
gosh.
woman dies every 10 minutes as a
Yeah.
result. So just in the conversation we've had here, 6 women, possibly
Yeah.
7 now,
Yeah.
have lost their lives to an intimate partner. And that's not okay with me. And
Right.
then let's start talking about the children of these women,
Right.
because here in the US alone, 50%, again, just what's reported, half of all our kids in the US witness abuse and domestic violence at
Right.
home at least 4 times before they're 18.
Yeah.
And this is being perpetuated. This is going into the next generation who thinks this is okay. And
Right.
it's going to the generation after that. We're just perpetuating this until we decide it's going to stop. Does that mean maybe your mom and dad won't talk to you? Maybe your ex's family won't talk to you? Yes. Does that
Yeah.
mean losing friends, losing
Yes.
jobs, losing your church, whatever?
Yeah.
Yes. But you know what? You'll be alive. You'll be
Right.
alive, and
Exactly.
your children will have a mother,
Yes. And
and you will
that's it.
be okay. And going back to where I get so many people too that say, oh, I can't leave. I can't leave because where am I going to live? How am I going to support 4
Yeah.
kids? Guess what? There are people like you and me in this
Yeah.
world that will make damn sure you have a place to lay your head at night. We will
Hmm.
not let your children sleep on the street. We will make sure you're fed. We will make sure you're clothed. There are organizations in every
Yes.
community, rural communities, city communities. There are people out there who will help you. I
Yeah.
know a woman with two autistic boys, 2 of them,
Mm.
that went out on the street because it was better than the abusive
Yeah.
situation they were in. They were literally eating out of garbage cans on the street.
Mm.
And you know what? They're okay. They
Yeah.
are now in an apartment. They have a
Yeah.
job. They're going to school. Everything is okay. It
Yeah.
will be okay.
Yeah.
But if you are alive and your health is okay and your kids are okay, that is what matters.
That
And
really
even
matters.
pets are a thing. There
Yes.
are actually places that will foster your animals until you can get them back.
Yeah.
So there is an answer to any problem or any
Yeah.
reason you have not to leave. We can help you out of
For
all
sure.
of that.
Yes. And that's why I gather such information, and I'll put your information on my resource list as well. I try to do that as you guys are a guest on my show, because I didn't have those resources for my listeners. And I'd be like, I need to give people things, because I had this place of privilege where I'm like, where was I going to go? I don't know.
Mhm.
But my brother was like, I have a room if you want it. And I
Right.
was like, thank God. And yes, we had some money, we split, but still, it was like, I wasn't living in my own house. And like, I
Right.
didn't just pick up my life. But frankly, it was okay, because it was better than what I was living in. The way I felt, I just knew I had to get out. But we have tons of resources. I do
Yeah.
need to add the one for pets, though, on there. So I have to research that, so that you can make a quiet escape if you need to, and you can have some places to go. Listen, I have people who are doing the work. I didn't have to do the work on social media. It's so great. People are talking about it. I'm like, oh, great. I'll take their resource and add it to the website. And
Exactly.
that way, because there's people who are doing this work to help us and all that. So, oh my gosh, what a great conversation. And I I know it's going to be helpful. I know. Oh my gosh. I mean, we could talk forever about this.
We could. It's a lot, but I mean, at the end of the day, it's as we started. We're just trying to get the information out
Yes.
there. Certainly, I thought I was the only one. And
Oh,
when
yes.
I got out of my marriage at the end of 2020 and got my first smartphone ever, and I listened to my first podcast, and believe me, it was one that was about narcissistic abuse. And I heard a woman's story, and I thought, oh my gosh, it's like she lived my life.
I
And I
know. It's
realized that
amazing.
there's so many of us out there. We do have to band, and we do band together. We're
We
here
do.
to support each other. Those of us that have gotten out, we can help shine the light and shine the way,
Yes.
and give you that hope and give you those resources. So thank you for what you do for this show, for the resources on your site, because gosh, I wish, had I had a smartphone,
I know.
it would have been a tremendous help to me back
Well,
then. But some
that's
of us
why
had
you
to do it on
didn't.
our own.
That's why you didn't. He didn't want you searching for anything. He didn't want you
Right.
Googling, why is my husband this way? He didn't.
Exactly. But I think this is an important piece, though. And thank you for
Yeah.
bringing that up, because I want to remind everybody that if you're
Yes.
listening to this, if this does not apply to you, I guarantee 1 out of 3 women,
Mhm.
more than 3 women, somebody that seems to be in a relationship that's off, or maybe
Yeah.
that relationship is off. Please share this with them. Please just send them the link to this episode. There's a little
Yeah.
share button. It's very easy. It comes off non-confrontational. They can listen to it while they're
Yeah.
driving to work or in the car to the grocery store or the bank. And there's something that one of us might have said that might resonate better
Yes.
than you confronting them about that relationship. So please, please, please
I
remember to
love that.
share this, like it to get it out there,
Yes.
subscribe to
Please.
it. Please support this, because there's a lot of women that still need a little help waking up and seeing
Yeah.
things for what they really are, and knowing that there is hope for a better
Mhm.
life.
It's why I started talking, because I thought no one else had gone through this. I thought,
Agreed.
and why did I think that? Because really, if I would have stopped and really thought about, of course, other people have been abused, but no, because I was still so brainwashed that
Hmm.
I was still so gaslit. I was still so manipulated that I thought, no, there is a whole level of shame. And of course, that's very human nature. You're going to go
Yeah,
right to shame, but I'll tell you, the minute we talk, shame is broken. And that's why we bring dark stories to the light, so that shame will be broken. You do not have to be ashamed. You are not the only one.
exactly.
I know that, Elaine, so much of your story was my story too. I mean, it's just wild. I mean, it's just the details. That's the only thing that's different. And oh my gosh. Yeah. So please, yeah, touch every button, like everything. So that way the word gets out there.
Exactly.
So, Dana, as we say goodbye, where can everybody find you? And I will also put all of your information in the show notes so that they can get a hold of you.
Yeah, of course. I'm kind of everywhere, but I always direct people to my website,
Sure.
danasdiaz.com. Links for socials are on there, so you could pick your platform, and
That's
I'm on all
awesome.
of them, I'm pretty sure. So go
And what's
there.
your
And
show? What's your show about?
shifting gears, it's changing your mind to change your life. I have experts in subconscious mindset, people that talk about trauma. It's all about just kind of opening your mind to different perspectives, how to get past all those beliefs we have about ourselves. We
I
talk
love
about
it.
self talk, all the stuff just general self-development, but definitely all the stuff that helped me overcome
I love it.
all that abuse and that terrible life that I left behind. But I also want to point out, if you do go to my website, danasdiaz.com, you can get the first 2 chapters of Gasping for
Oh,
Air, my first book, by just putting your email in. It comes immediately in a download. And you just might read it and find out that it resonates a little bit more than you thought. And then there'll be the link to go and grab the book if you
that's
so choose.
awesome.
But please do go check out what I have to offer, and
Yeah.
as well as your website where you have a bunch of resources. So whatever you need, we are here for you.
Yes. Thank you so much for telling us your story and, of course, giving us so much hope. Wow. I mean,
It's a
you've done,
lot.
I mean, well, and I wasn't even really feeling that. I'm like, you've gone through so much, and to see where you are, it gives us a lot of hope. It really does.
Well, I'm glad.
And when you're in it and you feel like I didn't think I would ever breathe again. I didn't think I would ever have joy ever again. Like I just literally thought I was going to die when I started to unravel all his lies and betrayals, and to be on the other side. And when I even started seeing people on social media
Yeah.
that had joy, and I'm like, what? I can have joy again, well,
Yeah.
joy for, I don't know how long, when was the last time I had joy, who knows? And so to have joy and happiness and try and go after my dreams, and no one is stopping me, telling me, no, you can't do that. My God, you can't be that person. You can't do that thing. He never liked anything that I did on social media, even just posting pictures. And so now I'm like, look at me. Let me pick up my
Same, girl,
microphone.
same.
So thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it. And guys, if anything resonated with you today, of course, like we just said, please go like everything. Of course, if you're listening on Apple or Spotify or any of the podcast platforms, please hit that follow button, leave a 5-star review so that other people will hear this. And that's the
Yes.
way it gets out into the podcast land. So podcast land knows you love us and all that. And please go to Dana's website and see everything that she has to offer. She has a really nice website with lots of stuff for
Thank
you
you.
guys. So thanks a lot, Dana. Thanks for being here. I appreciate
My
you.
pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you for joining me today on the That's Where I'm At podcast. Did the story today resonate with you? Do you think others would benefit from hearing the stories we are telling? Please go to Apple or Spotify right now to leave a review so everyone in podcast land will know you love the show. We want to continue sharing stories of hope and healing. I'll be back next time. I'll talk to you then.